What's up? This is the Heavyist podcast, weekly worship at the altar of radness. What is going on, Gary? How are you?
What is good, Sonny Taylor? I am well, thanks, mate. How you doing?
Bloody lovely, mate. Bloody lovely. I'm just fully dadded up, mate, at the minute, to be honest. I got a pair of sandals the other day that are very dad heavy, and then I keep finding myself like sitting in the garden in the evening, sitting there with my phone, and I'm one fingering, mate. I'm one fingering. It's just happening. It's happened.
Sonny, if I ever catch you in a pair of Birkenstocks, our friendship's over. That's it, man. That's the final straw.
I've got these.
Look.
Do you want to get them out? Look.
Oh, look at them.
They're camo, though.
Mate. They're camo. They're all right.
They are camo, though, so
you get a pass.
You
get a pass for those bad boys.
I can't stop wearing them around the house.
Well, everyone likes that.
I bought them for holiday, and I'm just wearing them around the house now instead of slippers. They're just the comfiest, best thing.
Hell yeah. That's a powerful look, mate.
Really
what
embracing fatherhood.
To start this pod with, man.
And all its allowances.
Your dad kicks. I love it.
Yeah, bro. I'm good. How are you doing? You've been you're on about 1.5 holidays a month at this rate. How are you? Poor.
I just had a lot crammed into a small space of time. That's all. I've just been on 3 in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
But just cramming them in. But yeah, I went to Sweden for a long weekend. It was lovely. It was knackering. I went to Gothenburg, home of Swedish death metal.
Big up.
Although apparently all the Swedish death metal bands don't actually live in Gothenburg. They live in Malmo, which is quite a long way out. So I googled death metal things to do in Gothenburg, and there wasn't really any answers. There wasn't really anything actually death metal that you could do in Gothenburg. I went to a botanical garden. That wasn't very death metal. Was that the Volvo Museum? Those are your options.
Was there at least a flesh-eating plant, or
No, mate. There weren't any plants. It was all just freaking grass. What? Bamboo.
Is that even botanical? If there's no,
it was crap, mate. I think we must have missed the season where everything was flowering, so it was all just bloody leaves. It was rubbish, and it was such a mission to get there. And it was on a 45-degree angle hill, and I was trying to get Nicola's wheelchair. Oh my god, it was the worst idea to go there ever. I massively regretted it.
Fantastic. That's
Luckily,
all right though.
I had tunes to power me through.
Sometimes, the shit things, the things that are horrendous, they're the things that stick in your mind.
Yeah.
When stuff's amazing, you don't. Sometimes it just all blends into one nice thing. You go. Oh yeah, that holiday was nice, wasn't it? You just go, that was nice. Yeah. But now
when I went on safari, the one thing that really sticks out in my memory from when we went safari was when my mate Gareth managed to fall asleep during a safari in Africa.
That's well nice.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Did he miss anything good when he was a slumber?
Yeah, mate. He missed everything.
He didn't miss the hippos, did he?
He did miss hippos. Well, we saw hippos.
I'd be fuming if I missed the hippo.
Yeah, mate. You got to look out for them hippos. Most dangerous creatures there, apparently. You got to watch out for them.
Yeah, mate.
Chew it off.
They'll do you, mate. I tell you what else is dangerous, mate. Riffs.
What a segue, mate. You're a pro.
We are actually here. We have joined together. We've been reunited to discuss some of our favourite releases that have come out recently. We're going to talk about 3 phenomenal records. Gary, where would you like to start?
Can I be selfish and start with my big pick?
You can. You're allowed to, because I don't think I haven't got a tattoo of any of the other bands we're talking about, so you do get the old top trumps there, to be fair.
Amazing. I'm glad that's coming in useful for something. Yes, mate. The almighty Deftones released a new album in August. The album is called Private Music. It came out on the 22nd through Warner Records. It's their 10th studio album. And as Sonny mentioned, Yes, I do have a Deftones tattoo. Yes, Deftones are one of my all-time favourite bands. So I warn you, everything that I say, you've got to take with an absolutely enormous shovel of salt, because I am very, very biased about this band. So just want to be very clear about that before we begin. Having said that, I do think this is probably the biggest metal album of the year that's going to come out, right? Like, in terms of sort of profile of bands, I couldn't think of anybody else. But yeah, I mean, there's no Slipknot record, there's no Korn record. I'm just kind of thinking of bands who are like big enough to headline Download, and I don't think there's any other bands.
Linkin Park record was last year.
Linkin Park had an album out last year, which is probably bigger. They'll probably be bigger than, well, they definitely be bigger than Deftones. But like, Deftones have never headlined Download. Although I do think that there's got to be a time, not too distant future, when that would happen. That's got to be something that's on the cards for maybe the next couple of years. Like, wouldn't you say they were bigger than Queens of the Stone Age? But Queens of the Stone Age have headlined Download. Anyway,
yeah, absolutely.
I do think that this is one of the biggest records that we're going to talk about all year. It's also their 10th album, which is quite a big deal. And it's also been 5 years since Ohms came out, which was also unfortunately released into the pandemic. So it kind of came and went a little bit, I think. Obviously there was no tour. I mean, the tour was like earlier this year, essentially, I think, when they did that, like, that big thing at Ali Pali, and, they did festival appearances, although they didn't do Glastonbury in the end. It kind of, Ohm's album cycle felt a little bit like just a bit of a damp squib. So I kind of had this feeling that Private Music for Deftones is a bit of a reboot. It feels that way. As a fan of the band, there's obviously been weird tensions. There's been Steph Carpenter talking about the flat earth and all these kind of, anti-vaccine and all the kind of stuff that he does. He does like to, he writes a brilliant riff, but he also makes a pretty mean tinfoil hat, that guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's an interesting character, but, as a fan of the band, you do kind of learn to love him with all of it, warts and all. He's one of those kind of guys. But yeah, it was a big deal for the fans to hear that the producer of Diamond Eyes was back to produce Private Music. I think a lot of people had some pretty high hopes with this record as it was coming out. Like we said when we talked about the single, when Deftones put a white animal on the front of their record, people get excited, and here we are. And I think that as a fan of the band, those hopes and dreams that I had of what this record was going to be have definitely panned out for me. They have definitely landed. This is an absolutely brilliant record. I'm really, really enamoured with it. I've been listening to it absolutely loads. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of driving back and forth and flying, and I've been jamming the hell out of this record everywhere I go. Like,
very family-friendly record as well. You could definitely get away with it, can't you?
I would say so. It kind of something that the first thing I really noticed on my first playthrough, my first listen to the record, that it felt like the fun had kind of been injected back into Deftones. Like, it felt like this was a record that was really like light and playful. And, there's a lot of people saying that this is the best record they've put out since Diamond Eyes, and I can absolutely see where they're coming from. But when I'm like looking at the back catalogue of Deftones music, I think the record that this really makes me think of the most is Around the Fur, and potentially the reason for that might be this is the most nu metal that Deftones have sounded since Around the Fur. I mean, there's 3 songs on this record that start with like a do 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 do, like a running like bass riff, which is reminiscent of the sort of stuff that they have on like Adrenaline and Around the Fur, like really early days. It's got a lot more. It just feels like it's got a lot more energy and a lot more sort of youthful exuberance, which is quite ironic for a band of guys who are probably all like pushing 50 at this point. But I don't know, it just feels like they've kind of had a bit of a new lease on life. Like, obviously the last couple of albums, Gore and Ohms, both brilliant records. I mean, I love everything that they do, but they just felt a bit more sort of melancholy and a little bit more downbeat. And it really feels to me like on Private Music, there's an energy, there's like a fizziness to everything that happens on this record. And where that's come from, whether it's that Chino's had his opportunity to go away, do a second Crosses record, and kind of get some of his more kind of emotional stuff out of himself, and he's maybe handed the reins over to Steph a bit more, especially when it comes to like riff and songwriting. Like famously, White Pony, they had a lot of like clashing when Chino decided to pick up a guitar and start writing songs, and you get things like Teenager or like Digital Bath, which are either Chino led, or like Change, which are like Chino guitar led songs that are much more kind of melancholy and sort of sad and lamentful, and it doesn't feel like there's really that much of that kind of vibe on this record. Even when they do a ballady track, it's got a much more upbeat, almost like a poppy energy, that song. I mean, we'll get into songs a bit in a while, but like, it just really feels like this record for me just floats out of the speakers, man. It's been 5 years, and you could tell me that they've been working on this record for 5 years, or you could tell me that they wrote it in a week, and I'd believe either way. You know what I mean? It just feels like effortless. As a fan of Deftones, you hear about all the conflict within the band and how sometimes it can be really difficult to be a part of this band. It feels like all of that has kind of melted away, and it's just been a really smooth process, and the result is just a brilliant, cohesive and really tightly packed killer record.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, I haven't listened to it much, but I did listen to it a few times, and I enjoyed it a lot, man. I enjoyed it a lot. I think the track that I enjoyed the most was Souvenir. That was
yes,
that is an
definitely love Souvenir.
Banger, mate. That is beautiful Deftones.
Souvenir is the one. It's that point where it all just locks together, and it's that it just all kind of just solidifies. And the first time I heard that, I literally, Nicola sat next to me in the car, and I just went, Nicola, yes. And she was like,
this is
Deftones. I was just so happy when that moment happened in that song. And Souvenir is definitely the banger for me on this record. I mean, it's full of great tracks, but that's the one for me. I love that song.
Yeah, I also felt that there was, I think, like you were saying, a bit more of a playful energy. Like, there felt like almost like an alt-rocky kind of like sheen to some of what was going on in the record, which I really liked. Like, it definitely didn't feel as dour as a lot of like their stuff has. This was absolutely sick. Where is this sort of sitting in the pantheon of records for you at the moment? Obviously, it's a hard question.
I know that's a very hard question, but I kind of thought that you would ask it. So I decided that I'd actually sit and I'd think about, like, what order of ranking of Deftones albums do I have, and where would it sit? So I have actually done that, Sonny. I've actually ranked my favourite Deftones albums.
Yes.
So I'll start at the bottom, right? So Gore is probably the weakest Deftones album. I love it, but it is probably the weakest Deftones album. Then I think Saturday Night Wrist, which is an album that does get like lamented quite a lot by the fans. I think there's some absolutely brilliant tunes on there. Cherry Waves and Beware particular, absolutely massive, but it isn't a very popular pick amongst the fans. Then I'd probably put Ohms. From Ohms, I think Ohms I've like I said, it's been out 5 years, but I haven't really listened to it anywhere near as much as I've listened to anything else. Koino Yokan, which is a fantastic, beautiful record. It is quite sad, it is quite melancholy, but it is a gorgeous, gorgeous album. Then I'd kind of go like Adrenaline. People probably kind of disregard Adrenaline a bit, to be honest, because it is very old. It came out in like 1994. It is very much like a band who are essentially teenagers just kind of figuring themselves out. Then I'd go Around the Fur, White Pony, which most people would probably put first, but I prefer Diamond Eyes, and then my favourite is the self-titled. My favourite Deftones album, which is the controversial pick. Not a lot of people agree with me when it comes to that, but that's the one that came out after I discovered this band and had fallen in love with them. So that's always going to be like my Deftones record. That's my one, the self-titled. And then thinking about where Private Music sits, I'd probably put it like in like pretty much smack bang in the middle. Like I'd probably put it.
That's good.
between Around the Fair and Adrenaline, like 5th position. I'd probably say it's like, which for a band on their 10th record, I think that's pretty impressive to be able to say. Like, you know, most people, they've got 10 albums in the bank. All they really need is like 1 or 2 songs to go in the set, and the rest of it's just whatever as an excuse to make an album exist. And for the fact that this record is as good as it is, I think it's pretty bloody good going. I think it's pretty impressive. Like, yeah, I wanted to kind of get into a few of the songs just because I'm really like sucked into it at the moment, and I'm just kind of living in that world. Like, I love Infinite Source. It's in my ears. I think Infinite Source would have made a really good single. It's very lush. It's very big. It's kind of highlights Chino really well, which for the most part, actually, Chino isn't often the biggest focal point of what's going on. I think most of the time the riffs are kind of more of a focal point. Like, the thing about a Deftones riff,
it's those like
well, exactly. But the thing about a Deftones riff is the best ones have probably got 2 or maybe 3 notes in them, and they just smash them out. And this record's just absolutely loaded with huge belting, just like just big dirgy riffs. I think the track CXZ or CZ or whatever it's called has some of the coolest, like most propulsive intensity on the whole record. It's just got that really like frantic, like basically 1-note riff that just kind of slams through, and it just drops out quite often to like nothing, and every time it kicks back in again, it has the same like impactful effect on you. Milk of the Madonna is a fucking banger. When we're talking about bands who want to put a couple of songs in the set, like Milk of the Madonna needs to live in the set forever. That song is huge. And that like that little drum refrain that he plays in that song is really catchy. I don't think it's not a big Frank Delgado record in terms of like adding synth and like, you know, he's one of those, he's kind of a member of Deftones where if you took him out of the records, you'd notice. But when he's in there, sometimes you're not entirely sure what it is he's doing. You know, if you listen to the album in a really good pair of headphones, you can pick out more of like the little synthy bits and stuff that are going on. But he's definitely a much more of a like bass, drums, guitars, focused, like really kind of almost like a back to basics kind of vibe that's going on this record. I absolutely love the snare sound. It's filthy. It's got such a crack to it. Like, you isolated that would fit in a slam band. Like the snare sound has got such a crack to it. Chino hasn't really got anything, you know, he's got probably less of a volume of like big iconic hooks in there, but I think a Chino hook takes a good while to really reveal itself to you. So maybe I'm just a bit too early in my listening experience of this record to really start going, yeah, that's a massive vocal hook. But yeah, he does a few little bits and pieces that are a bit different. A bit, you know, there's the sort of like mad preachery kind of rapping in Locked Club, which is interesting. Or there's that bit at the end, or at the beginning of the last track, where I was almost like, is this Chino? Is this a guest? Like, he sounds so different. For just like 4 bars, he just does something a bit weird that I've never heard him do before. And yeah, all in all, I just think that this is a really, really strong offering. It feels like a band kind of reunited, re-solidified, and just kind of coming back. And I think it's going to really, really do it for the fans. Like, I'd love to hear what people out there think about this record as a Deftones fan, or maybe if you're not a Deftones fan, how do you feel about what they do? I know it's quite a niche thing. Also, what's your favourite record? Am I a nutter because I like the self-titled record? I think I am, but I'd like to be confirmed or denied of the case. But yeah, Private Music by Deftones, absolutely fantastic record. Yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it.